Hey guys, this is week 16 study guide, and I am going to try to get it done with you. Number 1 says write the equation. Elena earns $7 each time she rakes the yard. If Elena rakes the yard 8 times, how much money will she earn? So if she gets $7 each time she rakes, if she rakes 8 times, we should be able to multiply 7 times 8, and that would be $56. Okay, number 2, 400 divided by 4. Well, I know 4 divided by 4 is 1, and then I have the zeros. And I can check that because I know 100 times 4 would be 400. Number 3, subtracting. So we're going to borrow from that 5 to make the 2 a 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. 4 minus 3 is 1. 9 minus 4 is 5. Bring down my comma. I can't take 7 away from 4, so I'm going to borrow from the 2 in the 10,000s place. So 20,000 becomes 20,000 becomes 10,000. And 4,000 becomes 14,000. 14 minus 7 is 7. Can't take 8 away from 1, so I'm going to borrow from the 4 and make that 1 and 11. 11 minus 8 is 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0, so we don't have to write that. Okay, number 4. Katie, January, and Michael collected 876 box tops during the school year. They want to divide the box tops equally. They plan on giving any leftover box tops to Jackson. How many box tops will each person get? Okay, so together they have 876 box tops. And it says Katie, January, and Michael are going to divide the box tops equally. So we're going to divide 876 between, there are 3 of them, so we're going to divide it by 3 so that we can see how many each of them get. So I know that 3 times 3 is 9, so 3 times 300 would be 900, and that's too much because I only have 876 box tops to divide. So I'm going to start with 3 times 200. 200 times 3 is 600. So I subtract that. And I still have 276. So now I'm going to think about this 276 and think about the very first part, 27. I know that 3 times 9 is 27. So 3 times 90 would be 270. I have enough to take that away, so I'm going to subtract that, and I have 6 left. So I can make 2 more groups of 3 because I know 3 times 2 is 6. And then I have none left. So now I'm going to add up how many groups of 3 that I made. So 200 plus 90 is 290, and 290 plus 2 is 292 groups of 3, which means that Katie is going to get 292 box tops. January is going to get 292 box tops, and Michael is going to get 292 box tops. And then it says they plan on giving any leftover box tops to Jackson, so it looks like poor Jackson is going to get no box tops because there was no remainder. Number 5, 78 times 7. I don't know that right off the top of my head. So I'm going to use an open array, and I'm going to break apart 78 by place value. So 70 plus 8, and then times 7. I know 7 times 7 is 49, so 70 times 7 is 490, and 8 times 7 is 56. So I'm going to add 490 plus 56 and get 546. So the answer to 78 times 7 is 546. Number 6, 205 divided by 7. I'm going to write that. Now, I'm going to start by thinking about the 20. What times 7 would be close to 20? I know 7 times 3 is 21, so that's too much. So I'm going to start with 7 times, if 7 times 2 is 14, 7 times 20 would be 140. So I'm going to subtract that. Can't take 4 from 0, so I'm going to borrow and make that a 10. Okay. Now, 7 times what could get me to 65? I know 7 times 10 is 70, so that's too much because I only have 65. So I'm going to do 7 times 9, which is 63. And when I subtract that, I have 2 left. Now, I'm making groups of 7, so if I only have 2, I can't make another group of 7, so I know that I'm done. So now I add up how many groups I made. I made 20 plus 9 is 29. So I made 29 groups of 7 with 2 left over. So we write that 2 as the remainder. Number 7. The perimeter of a trampoline is 40 feet. If the length of the trampoline is 10 feet, what is the width of the trampoline? So I know that we're going to use perimeter to either find the perimeter or find one of the sides. So let's read it again. Well, and I know that perimeter equals the length plus the width plus the length plus the width. So now let's read it again. The perimeter of a trampoline is 40 feet. So all the way around all 4 sides, the perimeter is 40. If the length of the trampoline is 10 feet, so length is 10 feet, so I'm going to write that on here. Then I can put the 10 where my L for length is in the formula. So 10 plus one side plus 10 plus the other side. So now all I need to find is my width. And I know when I add them all up, they equal 40. So I'm going to add my 10 and 10. If 10 plus 10 is 20, I'm going to take that away from the total, and I will have 20 left. Now, the width is not 20 because remember, I have 1, 2 sides. And I see that up here in my equation where these W's are for both of those sides. So I know I have to take that 20 and divide it by 2. And I know that 2 times 10 is 20. So 20 divided by 2 will be 10. So that means the width is also 10 feet. Now, I know I can check because if I add all 4 sides together, I should get 40. So let's do that and see what we get. 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 equals 10, 20, 30, 40. 40 feet. Number 8, in May, 78 people visited the library. In June, 93 people visited the same library. In July, twice as many people visited in May and June combined. How many people visited the library in July? So I'm going to start by writing down what I know. In May, 78 people came. In June, 93 people came. In July, it says twice as many people visited in May and June combined. So twice would be 2. So I know I'm going to multiply something by 2. And it says May and June combined. So combined would be add, put it together. So I'm going to start by adding the number from May, 78, and the number from June, 93. And that's 8 plus 3 is 11. I write the 1 and I carry the 1. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 7 is 17. So in May and June, together, 170 people came to visit the library. But in July, twice as many. So now we're going to multiply that number by 2. So I'm going to draw my open array. Okay, and I'm going to say 171 times 2. I know 100 times 2 is 200. I know 7 times 2 is 14. So 70 times 2 is 140. And 1 times 2 is 2. So then I'm going to add 200, 140, and 2 together to get 342. So it says how many, I'm going to go back and check the question, make sure I have the answer to the question in the problem. How many people visited the library in July? So in July, 342 people visited the library. Number 9, the area of Noah's sandbox is 54 square feet. If the width of the sandbox is 9 feet, what is the length of the sandbox? So I see area, and I know that area equals length times width. So my question says the area of Noah's sandbox is 54 square feet. The total area is 54 square feet. If the width of the sandbox is 9 feet, what is the length of the sandbox? So we don't know what the length is. Now, I know when I have the total and it gives me just one side and I'm doing area, that I can use division to help me find the other side. So I'm going to say 54, the total area, divided by 9, because we know that the width is 9. And I know 9 times 6 is 54. So the length of the sandbox is 6 feet. Okay, number 10 says write the number in word form. So I'm just going to look at my place value. I see that I'm starting in the 100,000s, but I know when I pass 1,000 that I read the whole part of that decade before I say the name of the decade. So I'm going to write 300, 5, and then the name of the decade is 1,000. 800, 2.